Hi, this is Randy. In this video, I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk with you about what it is we're going to do in installing an external DNS server onto our Linux box. We're in our project here, which I've got the picture up, we're doing what's called split brain DNS, and I think it's worth taking a few minutes to talk about what that really is. So let me just see if I can add some notes here. Our internal network, our clients here are our DC1, our server, our Mac, Win 10, even our Linux box. They're all going to use DNS running on this Windows box. So this Windows box is a domain controller, so it has to have DNS, and it's going to answer for everything internal. The clients will all point to it. Even our Linux server, which is actually itself a DNS server, will point to this Windows box for their DNS. So they'll let's just use the Windows 10 here. It'll make a request. The DNS server will then go out to the internet, fill that request, bring it back, and deliver it to the client. And that's what we want. That's the internal half of split brain DNS. Now, the addresses that this internal server gives out are only good internally. And so, like if this Win10 box wants to talk to SVR1, that's going to be an internal address. That's going to either be a 192.168 or an internal IPv6 address. Well, with IPv6, there really isn't the same internal, but the point is that um, finding how the IP addresses of stuff inside your firewall is handled by one DNS server, where questions that are coming from the outside world are handled by a second DNS server. And when you do that, that's called split brain DNS. And so DC1 here is going to handle all of the internal, and LNX here is going to handle all of the external. Think, well, what would the external be? Well, we're going to have a website running. So we're going to have www hosted on the Linux box. The Linux box is going to be a DNS server. Actually, I think all of our external stuff is going to run on the Linux box. Um, so what we want then is we want, when requests come from someone on the outside, when they want to know about how to get to www using IP version 4, that will then be their request will come to the firewall. The firewall then will allow DNS to come in, but it'll only allow those external queries to go to the Linux box. The Linux box in its DNS zone will look up the IP address for www, and it will return it back. So I hope this is making sense. Now, there are some preconditions, and let's talk about those, and then we'll wrap up this video. So this is more of just an informational video to explain what we're going to do. So there are some preconditions to get this to all work. First off, we're using child domains. So for my test environment, I'm using hi for hawaii.bobstaco.com. Now that is a child domain, which means that I need a delegation. So out here on the internet, we have two other servers. They're on the internet, and they're authoritative for bobstaco.com. And so on these servers we have what's called a delegation for all of your state codes. Everything that's handled on. I'm handling that outside of the project. So for Hawaii, Alaska, all of the state codes that were being assigned, which fit in these boxes right here, all of us are assigned different ones. There's already been a delegation for you. So when a user out on the internet wants to query, like www.hawaii.bobstaco.com, they go to, as we know, they go up to the root, and the root does a reference to the top level domain, and the top level domain will then send a reference over to one of these two servers, and then these two servers will further delegate. They'll say, oh, the question you're asking is about hawaii.bobstaco.com or idaho.bobstaco.com, and then these servers will refer the query to come to your firewall and be allowed into your server to be answered. So I'm just trying to give a summary here to help you understand what's going on. So you're not responsible for the delegation. That's handled outside of the project. What you are responsible for is you're responsible for allowing DNS queries to come in through your firewall and to create and install DNS zone, which is appropriate for your child domain, to install that onto your LNX server and then to test it. So we've got tools for all of this, and perhaps I should do one more video just kind of showing how we test before we get started. So I'll wrap this one up, and we'll move on and do a little bit of testing before we actually install.